Hi, welcome back to the Student Cooking Guide. Today we're going to be showcasing a method for the perfect smash burger popularized by Kenji Lopez alt. The link to Kenji's original video will be provided in the description below. This is a great and easily customizable meal which only requires a few essential ingredients. And at just 78p per burger, they're cheaper than any burger on the McDonald's Saver menu. To start with the most obvious, you're going to need a quite high fat content minced meat. The reason for this is that we're going to be smashing these patties down onto the grill, which will release a lot of the juices and fat. If you pick something like 5%, by the time the patty is fully cooked, it will be completely dry. Kenji recommends going as high as 20% fat, but for me personally, I go for a more leaner 15% fat. This still provides a very juicy and tasty burger, but less fat is released in the pan. The next obvious is going to be the buns. This is of course up to your personal preference, although I'd recommend anything which has at least 4 buns, as the most common quantity of meat, which is 500 grams, can make 4 burgers. This means that there'll be no leftover buns or meat. And then the last thing you're going to need, as we're going to be making a double cheeseburger, is of course the cheese. Now for this, you're really going to want to go with a sliced American cheese, or cheese singles as they're often called in the UK. This is the poor choice for almost any other dish. However, the way it melts into the burger is basically unobtainable from any other type of cheese. To start preparing the burgers, we're going to first toast the bun. Previously, I would do this in a pan with butter, but this can take a somewhat long time, especially if you're making more than 2 burgers. Therefore, the quick and easy way to do this is to simply place them onto a rimmed baking sheet and put them under the grill. Now keep an eye on them as they will burn quite quickly. After they're done, put them on a plate and back into the oven. Placing the baking sheet on a higher rack and turning the oven off will keep the buns warm and also heat the plates. This means that we can prepare the rest of the ingredients without the buns going cold. Now that the buns are done, we can go on to prepare the toppings. Today, we're going to go very simple with just some white onion. My preferred method for preparing onion is to first chop off the stem end with a knife. Doing this provides a solid base, allowing us to chop the onion in half without it wobbling around. Now that it's cut in half, it's way easier to peel, and we can clean the board to get ready to chop the onions. To do this, we're again going to place it on the large flat side to prevent it from rolling around as we're chopping, which could be dangerous. We're then going to place our middle 3 fingers of our non-dominant hand on the top of the onion, with the middle finger sticking out slightly more. We do this so we can run the knife up and down the side of our middle finger, which sounds way more dangerous than chopping without a guide, but that's actually not the case, as we know exactly where the knife is going to be every single time. Now we've stabilized our hand on the onion, we've got to make sure that we stabilize the cutting board, and this is just a simple matter of placing a tea towel underneath. Now we're ready to cut. We're going to hold the knife in a pinch grip, meaning that with our forefinger we're going to wrap it around and hold onto the blade instead of the handle. This is going to give us far greater control over the blade, and this coupled with our perfectly calibrated onion is going to give us perfect slices. So now you can simply start slicing downwards, and then as you finish making the cut you can move your non-dominant hand backwards, and depending on the speed at which you're moving this hand back is how thick the slices are going to be. As you slice, the onion will eventually become unstable. Once it begins to tip over, you then simply place it down onto its largest side and begin cutting again, continuing this until you're at the root end. Now if you haven't handled a knife like this before, it's going to feel completely alien to you, which is why this is being explained in so much detail. Now we're going to move on to prepare the meat. As we have 500 grams of meat, this is going to be enough to make 4 burgers, and as we're making them double, we're going to split this up into 8 even sized balls. The best way I found to do this is to split it in half first, then into quarters, and then those quarters into the individual balls. We're forming these into balls and not patties, as we're going to smash these balls down into the grill. You also don't want to add anything else to this, including salt at this point, as it will change the texture in a negative way. Okay, now we're almost ready to start cooking the burgers. They will cook extremely quickly, just around 1 or 2 minutes. This means you're often not going to have enough time to prepare the buns before the burgers are done cooking. I recommend, as we're preheating our cast iron skillet, we prepare the toppings on the buns. This is just going to be our sliced onions and just some tomato sauce. Placing the toppings on the bottom of the bun so the fat and juices from the burger doesn't seep into the buns. Finally, after preheating the cast iron and making sure that it's almost smoking, we're going to place 4 balls in each corner before continuing. This is where the only special bit of equipment will come into play, that being a sturdy spatula and a rolling pin. We're going to place the spatula on top of the ball and press down very hard with the rolling pin. The spatula should stay in place, although you can hold it as you're doing it. We're just going to continue to do this for the rest of the burgers until they're all smashed into the pan. Now obviously this is a ripping hot skillet, and it can very easily burn you if you're not smart about it. If you're not confident in doing this, you can pre-flatten the patties on the cutting board. However, this takes more time and is slightly more messy, so I prefer just to do it this way. Now that the burgers have been smashed down, we're going to immediately season them with salt and pepper. This is the benefit of a smash burger, as because they're so thin, we only have to season one side. We're going to cook them on this one side for the majority of the time to maximize the browning. You know it's going to be ready to flip when you can start to see pooling liquid on the surface of the burger. To flip them, we're first going to release them from the pan. To do this, we're going to flip the spatula over and scrape underneath them to release. Now this is where a cast iron skillet comes in very handy, because you can scrape them with a metal spatula. Now by all means you can use other types of pans, just be aware if you're using non-stick, do not use metal on it, as you will scrape the surface, and the resulting burger might not be as good. This is why cast iron is absolutely perfect for this recipe, as we actually want the burgers to stick and create good contact, meaning we'll have better browning. Immediately after flipping, we're going to place the cheese. This is also another benefit of using 15% fat, as if we use 20, there will be a massive pool of fat in the pan which will be spitting, and is the most pleasant thing to get on your hand. After putting on the cheese, we can then put them on top of each other and then immediately place them on our ready-made bun. Now, one final tip, after cooking the burgers, the pan is going to be extremely hot and will have a lot of fat in it, which we're going to want to get rid of if we want to cook more burgers. The simplest way to do this, in a cast iron at least, is to use a paper towel to soak up all of the fat, running it around the pan with the spatula. After this, it should be ready for another round of burgers. And there you go. After you've mastered this basic technique, you can start experimenting with different types of meat, toppings, buns, and even additions to the meat, which we may showcase later. And that takes us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Student Cooking Guide. And if you enjoyed, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.